repeat of
Nalapat, can I also ask you then,
yeah.
the US presidential election saw the significance in the emergence of alternative media platforms like X and podcasts and YouTube as platforms which can play a significant role in elections, in campaigning, in candidates trying to reach out to their voters, as opposed to the traditional media of newspapers and television news channels, which seemingly and increasingly, are perceived to be biased by the citizens. How do you see that really, going about moving forward, considering that, a lot of these media agencies and activists and groups term platforms like X as right-wing or as biased, as platforms with hate speech without any censorship?
Look, Shreya, the fact is that the digital age is here to stay, and more people are going to turn to the digital age and use digital platforms. That's a fact of life. And these platforms are going to become much more efficient
Yes.
and very useful. So that's going to happen. And one can argue that paper, cuts down forests. That's not a very good thing to happen, cutting down forests. But the reality is the digital age has now come, and the digital age is not only here to stay, it's there to expand. There's no question about that. But having said that, I'd like to point out that, when you talk about free speech, and then you say anyone who disagrees with you, anyone who disagreed with the intervention in Syria, anyone who disagreed with the intervention in countries, like Ukraine, since 2014, frankly, and especially since 2022, you're unpatriotic. You're indulging in hate speech. The people who say that are indulging in hatred against such people. I mean, they themselves are showing intolerance and hatred. And if I may say so, The Guardian, I mean, I don't know about this Barcelona newspaper, but The Guardian is an example of a newspaper that presents one particular point of view and basically hardly ever the other point of view, except as a parody or very occasionally, and they put it almost as a figure or to be laughed at. So frankly, Shreya, the freedom of speech means genuine freedom of speech. You say something I don't like, I say something you don't like, and you listen to it. That's the way, for example, a television platform ought to be. But if let's say, for example, you're a platform like some of the big platforms in the US, and they're going out on demonizing Musk, demonizing his Trump picks. Look, the incoming defense secretary, he's negative on China. He feels the army has not woken up to the danger from China. I think a lot of people feel the same. But for that, he said, Tulsi Gabbard said, oh, Bashar Assad, you can't defeat him. You couldn't defeat him. Tulsi Gabbard said, the Ukraine war in 2019, in 2022.
Sure. So there is a lot of...
And it's true.
There is a lot of labeling and the cancel culture, Professor Nalapat, that comes in the online world from both sides, whether it's the liberals or the right wing, or even the independents, the neutral guys. Even they end up being labeled or labeling somebody else. But how do you see it in India, considering the fact that online platforms have gained significance here as well? But there's also that challenge of misinformation, disinformation, fake news being part of this information narrative.
Look, if it depends, if news is not based on fact, there's no doubt it is incorrect. Whether it's because with a malign motive or not, we can't say. There's no doubt about it. But the fact is, in the case of the United States, for example, Shreya, the people of the United States shifted in a way that, frankly, the Biden camp could not understand. The people of India shifted majorly in 2014, and they basically, despite a huge effort in this 2024 election to make sure he doesn't come back for a third term, Prime Minister Modi came back for a third term. These are decisions by a sovereign people. So if you say that Trump was responsible for what's happening in America. No, the change in America was adjusted to by Trump in a way it was not adjusted to by Biden. And ultimately, it's a voter who
Hmm.
decides. And the voters decide, and that's fine. That's democracy.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. We leave it there. Professor Madhav Nalapat, of course, Musk has also said that these companies have been trying to blackmail him with money. But let's see how this moves forward. For now, many of them leaving and announcing that they're quitting the X social media platform. Thank you very much, Professor Madhav Nalapat, for joining us on Global Mirror and sharing your perspective.